Hello and welcome. On behalf of this oral history project, I am IUN. I, Ellie Jaimes, will be interviewing Rick Gard. Today is April 11th, and we are located on the third floor of Anderson Library in the archive room. Do I have permission to record and share this interview with you?
Yes.
Great, thank you. And are you ready to begin?
Yep.
All right. So tell me about your childhood experience and family experience. Where did you grow up?
Grew up in Schererville, locally, um, my whole life, and really my family, pretty deeply rooted there. My mom and dad, both sides of their families, growing up, I think we go back 4 or 5 generations in Schererville. So, just kind of the Guards, my dad's side, the Goverts, my mom's side, they don't really leave Schererville. So that's kind of where we've been for 100 plus years, and it was a great place to grow up, and just have great childhood memories.
Nice. Do you have any like funny or memorial family stories that you remember?
Um, oh man, there's a lot. I think one thing, like looking back, um, every year my dad's side of the family would have, huge get-togethers at the one park in downtown Schererville, Reeder Park. So for us, those were always fun things to do in the summer. The big Gard family reunion, and that's just always something that I kind of look back fondly on.
Nice. Do you plan on, I would say, continue on that tradition, like that reunion?
It kind of fell off several years ago when my my grandpa had passed, my grandma had passed, some of his siblings had also passed away, and that was kind of they were the ones who would plan that. But my dad's side now, I have 11. I'm one of 11
Wow.
cousins, and then my brother and sister, but are two of the other 11. But we this past summer, my one of my cousins just tried to get it going for my dad's side. Now that it's gotten to be pretty big, I think 6, 7 of the 11 of us are married now, and some have kids. So the family just keeps growing. So
Mm-hmm.
at least try to keep in touch with all my cousins and their kids and my aunts and uncles. So they're starting to try to do that again. We'll see how long that lasts, but hopefully it's sustainable.
Nice, nice. Where did you attend school?
Went to Lake Central,
Okay.
from I think 08 to 12. Uh, Had a great experience there. Um, I'm still involved there. I've never really left since I graduated. I obviously came here in 2012. But then, even while I was a student here, I was still involved over there, helping coach in the girls' basketball program, and now going on year 13 next year, I guess, uh, coaching in the girls' program over there. So I've stayed involved there. That was a great experience, and loved my time at Lake Central.
Nice, nice. So you're involved with the girls program,
Yes.
and how do you like it?
It kind of helps keep me young. I always say that, like, and it's weird to think how much something is. It's a definite side job, so to speak. But it's interesting how much something like that has helped me, in terms of taking those skills and translating them into whether it's an academic setting, whether it's a social setting, whether it's a work setting. The especially the work setting, um, the team skills that come with being around a team for 4 or 5 months a year, pretty much daily. That those are very translatable, and then it's honestly helped me a lot in terms of my communication. Um, I have always considered myself to be a fairly shy person, um, and the one thing is, like, when you're coaching like that, you can't really be shy. So you're doing a lot of talking, and it kind of forces you out of your comfort zone at times. And I think that's really helped me in the work setting, and in social settings too. I'm much more apt to hold a conversation. So I'm very grateful for those experiences, and it's provided some really great memories along the way.
Nice. I as well am I'm very shy. I'm a shy person. I try to, get out there and be more involved. But hearing that from you, that obviously being a coach, you have to, be the lead of your team
Mhm.
and just support them and have a better communication with them, not only with that, but in like your work experiences as
Yeah,
well.
no doubt about it.
Yeah. So what brought you to IUN?
I think I college was kind of always something that I was gonna do.
Mhm.
It was just kind of where, right? And I think the one thing was, as I went through the search, um, there was a lot of things that there were a lot of places I looked at. Um, but the one thing was, I wasn't sure how ready at that point I was to leave home, I guess, so to speak. Kind of always have been a homebody, and now looking back now, it's having graduated and moved out of the house. It's like, I could have done it, but
Right.
I don't know. I still don't know if I could have done it in 2012. So that was one factor. Don't get me wrong, but I think the other thing was just getting a good education. It's an Indiana degree,
Right.
close to home, and then on top of it, at that time, um, it was the only campus in this area in Northwest Indiana that had the AACSB Business School accreditation. Um, so it was, definitely in my eyes, a tier above some of the other universities in within proximity to where I live. So it just made a lot of sense in that regard. It was a good fit, and you know, I think, like I said, looking back, I can easily sit there sometimes and go, oh, if I could have went away, I could have been there, I could have done this, but at the same time, like, I got to have really good relationships with professors. At a school like this, you're getting taught by um, professors and instructors that have doctorates in their field, where at some larger campuses, you might be getting taught by a TA.
Right.
You know, someone who's not as credentialed as what you are going to get here, and I think that's really also an attractive selling point.
Nice. So what did you major in IUN?
I majored in financial information systems and business administration.
Okay, and what did you decided to do with that?
I think going in, I always
Mm.
kind of had a thought that I'd end up in the financial services industry, um, whether that was, going into accounting of some kind, whether that was going into a more finance related area, such as banking. Banking was always attractive to me. And so, you take some of those general education classes early, and it's not so much general education, but the stuff that's within your major. And okay, what do I want to do here? And the nice thing is you kind of get to feel out, okay, do I like accounting or finance more?
Hmm.
And then you can tailor your um, upper class education here, your later your junior senior year. You can really kind of pick what route you want to go. Do I want to go more finance? Do I want to go more accounting? After going through those entry level accounting and finance classes, okay, I want to do the finance route. And pretty quickly I had settled that, okay, I'll probably go into banking of some sort, and sure enough, that's what happened. And so, I've been in banking now for 8 years.
Wow, nice. So, are you good in math though? Were you
Uh,
ever good in math? Because some people be like, "Oh, I went to accounting or finance, but I was struggling with math or something."
I think I was always pretty good at math,
Hmm.
especially the stuff that's like very black and white, right? The geometry and some of the other stuff where you get a little more gray
Yeah.
area. I wasn't very good at that, but the more cut and dry math I was, and I feel like that's one of the things that made the accounting and finance route attractive to me,
Mhm.
was I felt like it was something I was reasonably good at. So um, that's kind of why I went that route.
Nice. So, when you were here at IUN, were you involved in any clubs or organizations?
No, I wasn't. And honestly, like looking back, yeah, that's probably something maybe I have a little bit of regret about.
Mm.
I was able to fortunately connect with some people here who I still keep in touch with on and off, but um, yeah, I don't have maybe some of the friendships out of IUN that, maybe someone who went to Bloomington or another university would have had. So that's maybe one regret, that I didn't get it as involved, um, and maybe have networked a little better here. I do still keep in touch with several of the business school professors, and um, then obviously, if Helen needs something, I'm always in contact with her. So um, you know, I wish I had, but I really wasn't. And part of that, I'll be honest, was because I was involved at Lake Central still.
Mm.
Um, and, you know, that's kind of, I guess, why I wasn't more involved here.
Nice. And then, can you describe your career path after IUN?
Sure. So when I graduated, like I said, I had kind of decided, okay, I think banking's the route I want to go. So I applied, and finally had found an opportunity um, through a family friend at American Community Bank, which is in St. John, um, and I, I interviewed to be a credit analyst, which would be working in the commercial loan department. And I had some people I knew who have been in banking for a number of years who have said, if you want to go in banking and be successful and have a rewarding career, commercial lending is a great area. So for me, it was okay. This is an opportunity to get my foot in the door, work with numbers, which again, I think I'm pretty good at, and get my foot in the door in the commercial lending area at American Community. And so I think my first 3 years there, I worked as a credit analyst for our lead senior lender, who's in charge of the loan department. And then after that, he started transitioning me into being a lender. So then for about 2 years, I kind of split time, lending some money, and then also doing still my analyst work where I, review his loans. So that was kind of my first 5 years, and then my last three, I've been solely a commercial lender. So I handle business relationships with local businesses, accommodating their lending needs. Um, so that's kind of where it's taken me as far as next steps. I mean, I think it can be a pretty rewarding career for me, and you know, if they have other opportunities to continue to advance, I'm going to try to do that. But for now, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at.
Nice. Do you feel like it was hard after graduating here to find, I would say, a career in that field? Was it hard for you to find?
No, I don't think it was hard. We, I think I graduated at a time where, yeah, I don't know if the job market was the most student friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think, if you got your name out there enough, something would hit. And even around the time I got hired at American Community, I
Mm.
had an opportunity at another local bank, that was in a different area, and it didn't really make sense because it wasn't something I wanted to do long term. Like I said, this was kind of like, hey, I can get my foot in the door and do something, or get in at the ground level of something that I may want to do long term. So, I think, I had to put a lot of irons in the fire, so to
Mhm.
speak, but um, I did think that it wasn't like a horrible process to find something. But I will say that once I finally found something and started, I felt I was really prepared. Um, yeah, there's going to be a learning curve in any field you go
Right.
into. I mean, um, there's going to be, whatever company you get hired at, it's going to have, their way of doing things. And sure, not everything that you learn in your college career is going to be translatable.
Mhm.
Um, some things might be a little different, but overall, the transition wasn't hard, and I felt like I was very well prepared.
Do you have a family? Do you?
Me personally,
Yeah, like do
uh,
you have you started your family? Do you have a family?
well, I got married last July, on July 23. We don't have any kids yet, my wife and I. But we went to high school together. Graduated from Lake Central the same year, and everyone asks, "Well, you must have been high school sweethearts." Nope. Reconnected
Right.
um, in 2020. We had hung out a few times years prior, but really reconnected in 2020 through some mutual friends, and we dated for 3 years before we got married, and enjoying married life so far,
Nice.
for sure. And we'll see what the future holds here. But yeah, no, I don't have any kids yet.
Do you want kids?
I think we do. That's something that we'd like to have in the future. But we'll see.
That's good. That's good. I mean, you can with your kids, you can start your whole family tradition of doing like the whole family reunion, all that
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No. Yeah. There's
that'd be nice.
a lot of things that we can pass on. Her family came over from Ukraine. Um, she was born here. Her mom was born here, but her older aunts and uncles and her grandparents were born in Ukraine. So they have a really neat family tradition, or really neat family traditions too. Um, kind of with some of them being first, second generation.
Mhm.
Stuff that we don't have, being like I said, 4 or 5 generations,
Right.
as I guess Americanized. So
Nice, nice. So, considering your status as a IUN alum, what words of wisdom would you share with present day students such as myself, striving for academic excellence and personal development within the university?
it's a it's a long question, but no, it's a good question. I think there's a lot of value in what's offered here. Like I said, not everyone gets the opportunity to have a you know IU degree, a satellite campus that offers an Indiana degree, in the proximity that we do here in Lake County. And obviously, it's been, I think the one thing I think that really was important to me is challenging yourself, while you're here, and trying to make the most of it. I know some people who, and I'm not saying in general, but like there are people in any walk of life who are going to, just try to coast and get by. I think you need to really challenge yourself to excel, because I think if you do, the resources that are available here, from the courses that are offered, the instruction you can get from professors, I think it can really elevate your profile, when you're going to try to get hired by prospective employers. I think, you know, there's also, like, for me, it goes on before you get here too, like
Hmm.
challenging yourself in that way too. I mean, there's really attractive and aggressive scholarship offerings here if you take advantage of, your high school career.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that really, I remember sitting down with my guidance counselor at Lake Central, I think my junior year, and she's like, if you do this, this, and this, you can get X amount of scholarship money, and it's like, wow, that's really enticing. So I think just making sure that you really challenge yourself, and I think I know things are fluid in life, and um, there's always room for change, but
Right.
trying to have a good idea of what you want to do when you get here. I think one thing just on the employer side that we've seen is, there are people who, you know, go to college and come out and still don't know what they want to do.
Right.
And I think by the time you walk out of here, yeah, it might not be what you end up doing for the next 30, 35 years, but to have a clear goal of, what do I want to do with my next 2 or 3 at least to get my professional career started.
Yeah.
I think that's also very important. And I think IUN does do a pretty good job overall of, trying to make sure students are headed on the right path as they graduate.
Oh, nice. That's really nice to hear. Well, this is gonna be for an ending. Thank you, Rick,
Yep.
for sharing your experience. I really, it's a really eye-opening for me, especially since I as well am a shy person, and to hear your story of how you went from being a shy person into somebody that involved in communication skills and being more open. I think that is very like it really hit me because I am very shy. I try not to be shy, but I try to open up to others. So that is really to see it from somebody else. It's really like amazed because look where you are. Look at where you are at.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate you uh, reaching out to me and involving me in the project. Really, really cool project. And no, I think you're right. I think like for me, um, there were things that I did in high school that helped me start to come out of my shell a little
Mhm.
bit. But when I got here, I had two really good friends who really kind of I think got me out of my comfort zone a little bit with some of their personality and how outgoing they were, and you're working on group projects with them, and you got to do group presentations,
Yeah.
or just the people they would talk to in class that maybe I wouldn't have if I didn't associate with them. And then, like I told you, just I really think coaching basketball has helped me a lot too. And I will say that, like, Lake Central, IUN, they both really prepared me for the real world, and the skills I learned here in other areas of life have really helped me in the first eight years here of my professional career.
Well, thank you, Rick.
So thank you.
Thank you.